Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished esteemed professionals, good evening. Welcome back to the groundbreaking series brought to you by the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants and Chartered Financial Analysts, Climate Finance Series into Carbon Trading. Tonight's event is a continuation from our kickoff webinar back in August 2023 on the introductions of climate finance. And now we deep dive further into the instruments of finance, which are carbon trading. In collaborations between ACCA and CFA Institute, this event marks a significant step forward on our joint efforts to actively contribute in ESG capacity building. Tonight, we gather to explore the intricacies of climate finance with a special focus on the emerging Indonesia carbon exchange. We are delighted to have a diverse audience tonight comprising ACCA members and affiliates, CFA charter holders and candidates, policymakers, and representatives from various industries and Chamber of Commerce. The event is to build the sense of urgency on climate crisis, accelerating the green transitions in Indonesia. We aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of carbon accounting, the initial step in the carbon credit ecosystem. We'll delve into the cap and trade mechanism within the emission trading system, and our goal to explore financial market efforts beyond carbon trading and identify sustainable finance products that can leverage the resources to accelerate into net zero. I am Afif Alfarizi from ACCA Indonesia, who will be the masters of ceremony for tonight's event. And I'm delighted to welcome you all to this momentous occasion. Our journey into the realm of climate finance begins. To officially open our event, please join me in welcoming Mr. Andrew Lim, the Portfolio Head of ACCA Maritime Southeast Asia, to have an opening remarks. Mr. Andrew Lim, stage is yours.
A very good evening to all of you, and it is my pleasure to be here tonight for this very important occasion. I would like to firstly thank all of you for taking time and the trouble to support this event, and I wanted to send my warmest regards to our honorable guests today, to Pak Alu Dohong, the Honorable Vice Minister for Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, also to Pak Pahala Mansuri, the Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs, also the President of CFA Society Indonesia, Pak Triyono Sudejo, Vice President of CFA Society Indonesia, and Partner Transaction Advisory of PwC Indonesia. I'm excited for this opportunity to again add my congratulations and thanks to all our colleagues and our friends across ACCA and CFA Society for everything they have done to support this successful and significant partnership on the vital issue of climate finance. Now, this event builds on the introduction of climate finance webinar we staged earlier in August. And we all look forward and eagerly to many more events together as we continue to work and promote our cause of responsible and sustainable climate finance. I'd like to take this moment to express why climate finance is so central to our times and at the heart of our goals, aims, and strategies right now. So much of this is described clearly and compellingly in ACCA's study, Green Finance Skills, the Guide. It describes how professional accountants can help the integration and the migration of sustainable economies and businesses of becoming experts in climate finance. In our volatile economic and political landscapes, access to cheaper capital is central to organizations' long-term survival. Leaders are increasingly offering attractive green rates to organizations that meet sustainability requirements. So rather than a nice-to-have green finance, is it really emerging as a necessity and competitively priced capital that keeps businesses in business. And in that sense, climate finance is an engine of competitive advantage. By embedding sustainability into all activities, organizations will drive value creation. Research for the Global Economic Conditions Survey by ACCA found that organizations worldwide are attaching more importance to environmental factors, and with their leaders anticipating significant changes to business practices to meet net zero targets. Understandably, they need more support from their finance professionals to increase access to green finance, and that will undergo the transition to net zero. Businesses told our researchers as well they don't know enough about climate finance opportunities and climate risk management. That's why our profession's ability to understand the green finance options needed for this transition is key to equipping organizations with this exercise. Now, having the skills to consider non-financial as well as financial business drivers will also leave the profession well-placed to lead training and developing the talents needed for enabling transformation and embedding sustainability. ACCA is proud to play a leading role in supporting finance professionals to help organizations develop well-structured and risk-reducing sustainable development initiatives and portfolios of greener assets. That includes our climate finance course designed by experts from ACCA and CFA Institute in response to the demand for skills and training in this fast-developing area. As you know, the course introduces climate changes and related economic and environmental impacts, with particular emphasis on the role of finance professionals in creating and implementing solutions to global challenges. It is a practical and applied digital course designed to support businesses, finance and accounting professionals, as well as any individual seeking practical guidance on climate change and climate-related finance matters. This course will also help gain an understanding on fundamental of climate change, the drivers, the risks, the consequences, and the role of climate finance. It helps people to also understand different climate initiatives and related governance and disclosure frameworks. It demystifies carbon pricing and accounting, understand the proposition of a sustainable economy and business model, gain practical knowledge for integrating climate risk into investment analysis and portfolio construction. We know that we are already seeing the climate change and the journey to net zero will have a great financial impact on organizations' position, performance, and of course, future outlook. The sustainability journey that organization needs to embark on today involves defining net zero strategies as well as setting time-bound targets relevant to the value chain. Now, exactly the precise cause of climate change and net zero journey are highly uncertain, and it is only to all clear that economies and organizations will feel the big impact over the coming decades. The green transition demands long-term financing. Green bonds, carbon pricing, and sustainability-linked loans will all play an important role if we all were to reach net zero by 2050. I would like to conclude by quoting ACCA's Chief Executive Helen Brand in her recent engagement at COP28 in Dubai. And she's mentioned if all 3 million accountants globally and around the world are upskilled with the necessary knowledge and skills, then we could all drive the real change together. And ACCA is focused in supporting businesses wanting to be part of climate change, solutions, and impact investors. And once again, congratulations to all of you for all that you have done, everything that you will be doing, and I know everything that you will do in the future to help advance the cause of climate finance, and of course to build sustainable businesses and economies together, offering a bright future for our people, whoever and wherever they are. Many thanks and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lim, on your welcome remarks. And let's hear another welcoming remarks from our distinguished Vice President of CFA Society Indonesia, Bapak Triyono Sudirjo CFA, partner at PwC Advisory Indonesia. Pak Triyono, you may set the stage.
Good evening, honorable guest, Bapak Alu Dohong, Deputy Minister of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, honorable guest, Bapak Pahala Mansuri, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, and also the Vice President of CFA Indonesia, my esteemed fellow from ACCA, Mr. Andrew Lim, the Portfolio Head of ACCA, and Ibu Julia Simatupang, the Country Manager, and also esteemed panelists and moderators, including my fellow partner Mano from Malaysia, came down all the way here, number of colleagues, Pak Denny, and also my distinguished member of CFA Charter Holder. Welcome to the event in this evening. We are proud to bring you our second collaboration with ACCA Indonesia, the seminar into carbon trading. Our first collaboration is a webinar called Introducing Climate Finance, which is a short online course jointly developed by ACCA and CFA Institute. The climate finance course gives a preliminary understanding and guidance around climate change and climate-related finance matters. On the CFA part, we also see the need for financial professionals, investment decision-making professionals, to be able to understand the financial impact and acquire the skills necessary to evaluate the impact of ESG into their investment decision-makings. Hence, CFA Institute has come up with ESG in Investing certificate to help our finance professionals master the real-world investing skills that incorporate environmental, social, and governance factors. As a follow-up, last month, CFA Institute launched what we call Climate Risk Valuation and Investing Certificate. This is an intermediate level of certificate for investment professionals who want the skills needed to integrate climate principles into valuation, portfolio construction, scenario analysis, and also to communicate their insights effectively. And then in September 2023, Indonesia launched the carbon exchange to facilitate domestic and international carbon trading, which will create new development in valuation, reporting, and accounting in carbon credit. This is a promising new area which will need to be jointly developed by each of us in terms of setting the standards as well as the best practice. We all need to define each of our roles to actively play in supporting a successful carbon market. Finally, I would like to have an insightful seminar and inspiring panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Triyono, on your welcoming remarks. Next, we will have a special address shedding light on the critical role of Indonesia's place in climate finance by our Deputy Minister for Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, Bapak Alu Dohong. Mr. Alu Dohong is the Deputy Minister of Environment and Forestry who appointed by President Joko Widodo in 25 October 2019. Before being the Deputy Ministers, Bapak Alu Dohong serves as Deputy for Constructions, Operations and Maintenance of a peat restorations agency since 2016. Bapak Alu Dohong is a Dayak descent and teaches natural resources and environmental management at Palangkaraya Universities before taking part at BRG. Bapak Alu founded Institute Environmental Assessment, Education and Training in Palangkaraya, Central Kalimantan. Bapak Alu Dohong, you may have your keynote speech on the stage.
Excellency, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as President of CFA Society Indonesia, Bapak Pahala Mansuri, and Honorables, the portfolio heads of ACCA Maritime Southeast Asia, Mr. Andrew Lim, and also Honorable Vice President of CFA Society Indonesia, Pak Triyono Sudirjo, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me begin by congratulating the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, or ACCA, and Chartered Financial Analysts, or CFA, for organizing this very important event. I thank also to having me here in this very deliberation event where we gather to discuss a theme of building the urgency on climate crisis to further accelerate green transition in Indonesia. The topic, of course, holds a significance as we navigate the challenges of climate change and strive to create sustainable solutions to our beloved nation, Indonesia. The world today is currently facing triple planetary crises that are climate change, the loss of biodiversity, and pollution. As we all know, the impacts of this triple planetary crisis, particularly climate change, is undeniable, undebatable, and it's called for immediate and collective actions. The Indonesian government has committed to addressing the impacts of climate change through our pledge in reducing GHG emission, along with enhancing adaptive capacity and reducing climate vulnerability, as stated in our enhanced NDC, or Enhanced Nationally Determined Contribution, that Indonesia submitted to the UNFCCC Secretariat in September 2022. In this NDC document, we increase our commitment toward the Paris Agreement, where CM1, we called it countermeasure 1, we pledged to reduce emission by 31.89%, or equivalent to 950 million tons CO2 equivalents that we have to reduce by 2030. So 7 years remaining or left with our own resources. And if there is an international assistance or international resource mobilization, our pledge now become 43.20%, or equivalent to 1.24 billion CO2 equivalent that we have to reduce by 2030. This is considered as the ambitious, right, compared to other countries sometimes. Even if we see, the current report published by the UNEP, actually the global world need to reduce about 43% of the GHG in order to achieve a Paris Agreement goals, 2 degrees toward 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030. So Indonesia even beyond that kind of global average. Even for your information, Indonesia is currently preparing the second NDC, which will be completed by 2025 at the latest. Which will be fully aligned with the Paris Agreement temperature goal. So this year, Conference of the Parties of UNFCCC 28 in Dubai, where Pak Pahala also there, accompanied our President. Actually, the most important because one of the particular issues discussed in this COP28 is about global stocktake. Global stocktakes in 3 areas. First, about adaptation pledge. Second, the first is mitigation. Second, adaptation. And the third is means of implementation. That's mean including resource mobilization and technology. So in this COP this year, all, and this is implementation of the Paris Agreement parties need to be reviewed, need to be checked it out, whether they're still on the track toward the 2 degrees and 1.5 degrees Paris Agreement goals, or we need to move even biggers, you know, and including resource mobilization or mean of implementation. Actually, starting from when this Paris Agreement enacted or adopted by all parties, the developed countries promised to mobilize climate finance about 100 billion US dollar per year. But up to now, never happened this promise fulfilled. Even last year, in COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, this 100 billion was not achievable. And this year, like 3-4 days ago, it's already announced that only 57 up to 60 billion US dollar commitment being achieved. So this is still far away from 100 billion US dollar. So why I mention this? Because in order to implement NDCs, particularly for the developing countries, financial issues is one of the requirements, right? We have two financial instruments that actually can be used in the Paris Agreement. First, from Article 5 of the Paris Agreement. This Article 5 specifically, developing countries or tropical countries can receive, we call it result-based payment out of implementation, reducing emission from deforestation and forest degradation. And Indonesia, honestly, out of many countries that already received this result-based payment. For example, we received from GCF, Green Climate Funds, about 105 million US dollar for our performance to reduce emission from REDD plus from 2014 up to 2016, right, for 2 years. And we also received from our collaboration with Norway about 56 million US dollar. And during this COP28, also the government of Norway promised to give result-based payment about 100 million US dollar. And been just 2 days ago signed by Ambassador of Norway to Indonesia and the directors or President Director of BPWDH, or we call it Environmental Funds in Indonesia. And we also have a collaboration with World Bank and ACE Kalimantan for the carbon partnership, about 103 million US dollar, and Jambi in the 5 lines. So that's from the Article 5. But we also hope from the Article 6, market-based, that you are talking here, I think, about carbon trading, whatever we call it. So this kind of two mainstream of financial that we can hope we can get it in order to fund the NDC. And related with this carbon pricing, Indonesia has enacted some regulation. For example, government of Indonesia has enacted Presidential Regulation number 98/2021 concerning, we call it carbon pricing, right? And Ministry of Environment and Forestry Regulation number 21/2022 concerning the governance of this carbon pricing. And also Minister of Environment and Forestry Regulation number 7/2023 concerning implementation of carbon trading or carbon pricing in the forestry sectors. And also Ministry of Energy, I think they also enacted regulation on the implementation of carbon pricing in the energy sectors. And the last but not least, I think the Financial Authority Regulation, ya, OJK itu kita sebut Financial Authority in Indonesia, number 14 if I'm not mistaken, ya. Sorry, number 7. 2023 regarding the carbon exchange in Indonesia. So this kind of instrument actually that we have provide, in order to fund our climate change in 5 sectors: forestry and land use, energy, industrial product and product uses, agriculture and waste sector. But there are 2 particular major contributors of our energy, actually forest and land use sectors, about 500 million tons CO2 equivalent that we have to reduce from forestry and agriculture by 2030 with our effort. And energy sector, like nearly 400 million tons CO2 that we have to reduce also. So these are 2 big particular sectors. And if we talk about carbon pricing or carbon market or trading in Indonesia, we have to also understand the architecture of it. For example, in our regulation, if you're doing this kind of carbon trading, or if you understand the architecture of this carbon trading, first of all, you have to develop, we call it emission reduction plan, right? And then second, you have to develop methodology, how to measure everything. And then the next is you have to follow the MRV system. So monitoring, reporting, and validation or verification system. And afterward, the issuance of certified emission reduction. And the certificate can be traded through the market, through the carbon exchange. Also, you can do it bilaterally from one companies that need to reduce the emission with other companies that produce this emission reduction certificate. So that the architecture in Indonesia, this domestically. But even if we have international collaboration with other countries, for example, or I forget one element actually, national registration system, the first one. So if we have a collaboration with other countries, like let's say Japan or Singapore, whatever, and we need to have, we call it a gentle agreement between 2 countries, right? Because they have to have a similar national registry system. Why this very important? Because in the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, 6.2 or 4, we need to avoid double counting, double claiming. That's the issues. So need we call it adjustment, between these 2 countries. Because later on, UNFCCC will have an international registration system. So when we sell certified emission reduction to the Singapore, and Singapore claim it to the NDC, we have to register in our national register system, but we retired it, so we not claim it to our UNFCCC. So that's why it's very important to have this kind of agreement and mutual registration system that need to be understood by all parties. Sometimes also I need to stress here, because I'm from Forestry and Environment Ministry. There is a misleading information concerning carbon in the forestry sectors. Let's say peatland or mangrove. I saw there is an estimation that we have 33 billion carbon in our mangrove that we can sell it. To me, this is not really right information, right? Based on the scientific studies, 1 hectare of mangrove is only contain maximum around 1,000 ton carbon. And this carbon stock, right, both in the above, below, and burial carbon altogether. So Indonesia has 3.34 million ton of mangrove in this country. So that means if we take that number, so a mangrove just contain or storage about 3.3 gigaton of carbon, not 33 gigaton of carbon. So that 10 times misleading figures, right? So, and this stock, we can't just slowly trade it, right? We can't just sell off this kind of 3.3 gigaton of mangrove, carbon in mangrove to the market. No. In doing this carbon activities or carbon trading related with mangrove, the most important is we call it additionality. Yeah, that's mean additionality based on the effort. So you have to measure when you plant mangrove trees, you have to measure all this kind of sequestration of CO2 into the biomass, right? And you have to check for the next year, you have to see the differences between the last stock and the previous stock. And the differences is that eligible to be traded or to be certificate or to be certified, right? Not the whole stock. Even if there is a leakage happen, like illegal logging happen in the mangrove, or if something like fires happen, you have to discount that, right? So that means net carbon sequestration that eligible to be certified. So not the whole 3.3 billion carbon stock in the mangrove. Similarly with peatland, we have 13.4 million hectares of peatland. Based on scientific studies, our peatland stored between 38 up to 55 billion ton of CO2 equivalent. Yeah, but again, you can't sell straight away this kind of number. 38 up to this 55 billion ton of carbon stock in the peatland. You have to do effort. You have to do emission reduction activities, and you have to do a MRV of it, and you have to come up with the net sequestration. So why I mention this, because so many misleading in the public, fora about this, as if that we're going to generate thousand of, $billion, just simply plant 1, 2, 3 of the mangrove seedlings, so peatland and so on, in order to avoid this misleading. Next, one of the particular important that I do believe the CFA and ACCA can be work on is about capacity building. If I mention of MRP, so we need substantial numbers of validators and verificators of doing these carbon issues, not in the only energy sector, but forestry sectors, land use sector, and also waste and agriculture. So we need upscaling all these kind of human resources to do that. Because currently, in Indonesia, we just have 5 companies, if I'm not mistaken, as validators and verificators institutional. So we need more. Otherwise, we rely on the international verificators and validators. You understand all is very expensive, right? But if we can develop this domestically, maybe we can reduce the cost for transaction cost, especially for MRP activities. So that can be compete, Otherwise, if we use international validators and verificators, can be very expensive, and all this kind of carbon revenue may be just, used for, pay all this kind of international verificator and validators. That was very impressive. So I do believe CFA and ACCA can work on this capacity building to scale up capacity building not only within the corporation, but also within other stakeholders, because we do need that at the moment. Yeah. And the last one that I need to stress here is collaboration and collective action are necessary for us to achieve, these NDCs and as well as for Indonesia to have its commitment toward the Paris Agreement. So this is not belong to the government, not implemented by the government only, but we have to do it together. All stakeholders need to be engaged, need to be participate, because these are collective pledge together from all stakeholders. So that's, I think, I do hope what I mentioned here can be discerned, can be later discussed more detail in this event. And I apologize if something not really proper, my statement, whatever, in this particular event, and I do apologize. Thank you very much for your all kind attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, continuing our next session for tonight, the main event, the panel discussion into the carbon trading, will be moderated by Dr. Adrian Teja CFA, the Vice Dean of School of Economics and Business, Universitas Prasetya Mulia. Dr. Teja is currently serving as a Vice Dean for Human Resources, Administrative Operations and Finance at School of Business and Economics, Universitas Prasetya Mulia, where he has been a faculty member since 2014. Teaching various courses from business model to strategic foresight. With rich employment history, he held positions at head of equity sales at Panin Securitas from 2005 to 2012 and has been affiliated with various academic institutions. Dr. Teja holds a doctorate degree in advanced corporate finance. Dr. Teja has research interests in corporate finance, taxation, and ESG sustainability. With that, please welcome Dr. Adrian Teja.
Okay, good evening. To our honorable guest, His Excellency, Mr. Pahala Nugraha Mansuri, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs. Okay, Mr. Andrew Lim, Mr. Triyono Sudirjo, Mrs. Siti Rahmawati, and Mrs. Julia Simatupang for an excellent evening. Okay, and I would like to invite our discussion for today, Mr. Ridwan Kurniawan, Mr. Aryon Maro ACCA Mare, Mr. Ignatius Denny Wicaksono. Last but not least, Mr. Manohar Johnson, ACCA. Please welcome to the stage. For this good evening, I would like to introduce to our discussion. First is Mr. Ridwan Kurniawan. Is Assistant Professional Program Manager with 14 years of experience, specializing in renewable energy, energy access, energy policy, sustainable energy technology, capacity building, technology transfer, and climate change. Mr. Ridwan Kurniawan holding an MSc in energy policy with distinction from the University of Sussex. He has a comprehensive educational background in relevant courses such as energy and development, energy policy, and policy analysis. His recent work includes stakeholder engagement for the Coal to Clean Credit initiative in Indonesia, coordinating a multi-million pound technical assistance, program on climate transition, and contributing to geothermal and carbon capture project with the Asian Development Bank. And then I would like to introduce Mr. Aryon Maro ACCA Mare. Rion, as we call him, has a background in power engineering and renewable energy engineering, graduating from Institute Teknologi Bandung in 2010, and later earning a master's degree from the University of New South Wales in 2017. From 2018 to the present, he served as manager at Perusahaan Listrik Negara, where he coordinates non-electrical research topic and oversees research progress at the PLN Research Institute. His responsibility also include contributing to the establishment of standard for DC House SPEL, and battery storage as part of the standardization working group. Mr. Aryon Maro expertise extends to renewable energy project design and assessment, including wind energy, standalone hybrid system, grid-connected PV, and rooftop PV. Okay, and then I would like to introduce our third discussion, Mr. Ignatius Denny Wicaksono CFA, that has experience in capital market industry for several institutions and position for more than 10 years. And currently working at Indonesia Stock Exchange as Head of Business Development, 2 division. He oversight the development of structured product, index, ESG, carbon trading, and other initiatives. He is a part-time lecturer at the Indonesian Capital Market Institute and also other CFA, FRM, and certificate in ESG investing exam preparation. Mr. Denny also a book writer. His book, mulai dari ETF, reksadana gaya baru yang efisien, transparan, dan fun. It can be found at Gramedia, and he obtained MBA from IEE Grenoble and MM from Universitas Indonesia. He is also a CFA charter holder and a certified FRM, CIPM, and certificate in ESG investing. And the last, Mr. Manohar Johnson, ACCA, is a partner with the assurance practice of PwC Malaysia with more than 25 years of experience in providing audit and business advisory. He started working with the legacy firm of Coopers and Lybrand in 1997, which merged to become PricewaterhouseCoopers in 1998. He is a fellow of Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA, and current chair of ACCA Malaysia Advisory Committee, MAC. He is a member of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants and current chairman of the MIA Johor Regional Office. Mr. Manohar has been actively involved in ESG-related matters in recent years, which include being nominated as the Assurance ESG Lead for PwC Malaysia and providing assurance opinion over sustainability reporting by PLCs. That's all for our discussion, and I would like to start our tonight discussion. Okay. As you know that Indonesia is at a very early stage in the carbon trading business. So there is a lot of work to do, as also a lot of opportunity to be uncovered. And then today we have a good collaboration between 2 developers of human talent, the ACCA and also the CFA Institute, and the discussion who are actively involved in the initiative to reduce carbon emission with different means. And then I would like to start this topic. As we already introduced our participant or our panelists, and I would like to ask for Mr. Ridwan Kurniawan first, okay, regarding your insight on climate policy, finance, and carbon market.
So please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Ridwan. Thank you, Pak Teja, and I'm from working in South Pole. It's a company, not the poles, who are actually, we call ourselves climate company, as we are one of the oldest carbon project developer in the world. We have an office in Jakarta, been working with PLN, developing carbon credit schemes for several of its renewable energy project, as well as PGE. That's how we operate. And currently we are working closely with Ministry of Energy in developing a new methodology of early coal retirement called the Coal to Clean Credit Initiatives, meaning, basically if we want to early decommission coal, we can channel carbon financing on it. So as Pak Teja mentioned, I'm happy to share of, basically what's the term that often being used on carbon trading, carbon markets, what are them, right? So in a policy logic, basically carbon trading came from two different policy instruments of what focus in the state-controlled and the market-based instrument. Pak Alwi Dohong mentioned, right, that, trading now are the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement close to the market-based instrument, and that's where we are in the middle. So if you are talking, usually when you're talking about the carbon trading, the term we use is usually an ETS or emission trading scheme, where basically a country or in a country decide of a sector to define the cap of the maximum emissions of a year, where all the players inside of that cap or in that group have to follow that, right? And this baseline, the baseline is getting stricter and stricter every year, meaning they have to be efficient and reduce their emission. Otherwise, they can sell their allowance. If some enterprises in that sector are, emitting much less than the target, meaning they have some allowance to sell, that allowance given by the others. That's what called an ETS. And usually, it's often mixed with what we call carbon market, that usually the term that we're now reaching, which is actually coming from accrediting. So, which is, as Pak Alwi earlier mentioned as well, that basically a project, a climate mitigation that is solid and able to provide emission reduction or removal, calculated by independent auditors and MRV'd, right, as what he mentioned, then it can produce of what we call credits, and that's where we are in the carbon credit. So, and also, if you may heard, it also correlates with the taxes, right? Which is where the Ministry of Finance working on right now, and this is all correlated. But basically, when we are talking about trading, let's focus that this is actually now a mix of a state policy. So you will see there will be some state inclusion in there, but it's basically market-based. So it's the market, the one who decide the buying and selling, because this is, buyer and seller, right? So we're in the middle there. Later, if you go to the next slide, you'll see there are different kind of carbon assets that being traded or that are in the market, as I told you. So the first, usually kind of the assets is what we call credits. Basically, it's a certificate. In our system, we call SPEGRK, Sertifikat Pengurangan Emisi Gas Rumah Kaca, in Indonesian translation or in Indonesian law. And that's equate basically from a certified greenhouse gas emission reductions of a project, and then it represents 1 ton CO2 equivalent. So the kind of greenhouse gas emission can be different, but usually it's equalized into a ton CO2 that has been avoided or removed or reduced. Okay? Those are certified. There will be some MRV and all of the long process. The second one is allowances, or in Indonesia it's called PTBAEPU, Persetujuan Teknis Batas Atas Pelaku Usaha. You'll get used to it soon. But basically, it's an allowance that basically issued by a regulatory body, in this case, ministry here in the government of an ETS, okay, emission trading system, and to allow, to permit to emit 1 ton CO2. So these are two different kind of assets, though the unit are the same, and the scheme of trading sounds like the same. Okay, so let's get used to with this, and this is different. Later, where Bang Aryon maybe explain more, PLN also produces what we call renewable energy certificates, or the REC, right? It's basically another market-based instrument, but it's energy attribute certificate. It is not a carbon certificate. It's different. Okay, let's get used to with this. And actually, if you want to see, there are two different kind of market in the trading itself. Usually what we call compliance market are the ETSs, because it's complied to follow a specific regulation set by the government. The other one is voluntary market, where B2B, between the players who, have some actions of carbon project, certified it and then sell the certificate to other partners who want to buy it, right? That's what we call the voluntary market. Okay, so these are the terms that we will use oftenly, and you will find when you read news or any papers that you'll see. Now, if we follow then all of the assets that I've already explained before, these are two different, right? So if you want to dig deeper, what are the difference of the credits and allowance, or SPEGRK and PT BAEPU, basically it's really two completely different commodities, right? The carbon credits or offsets, where it's generated by a regulatory body, it's actually traded mainly in the VCM currently, which now the trends change. It's moving to the more of the Article 6.2 and 6.4 as Pak Alwi mentioned lately, but used to, since from 2007 till 2022, I would say, most of the transactions of the credit are in the international VCM or voluntary carbon market, where it's actually a B2B business, like what we did with PLN, and then we sell the credits offshore, outside of the Indonesia border. Now, about allowance is the one that you probably often see, and the famous one is the EU ETS, right? When you see the price is fantastic, where the EU decided that the caps, the allowances sold are probably now, I don't know, $150 or maybe close to 200 now, just so that they are incentivized in it. But basically, it's two different things. Okay, don't mix it. Don't assume that if you are now issued a credit, then you'll get a 200 allowance cost. It's two different commodities. It's two different place. The one who are mandating it is also different organization, which is the EU, and our projects are mostly in Indonesia, right? So these are the things that, I just want to clarify that the focus here are most likely when talk about the ETS are the Indonesian ETS, which are you will see later in the details. So why then, what's the policy to all of those different commodities? What are the relevant policy that Indonesia focus? So we have to see it from the first scratch in 2015, where Indonesia actually adopted Paris Agreement. Okay, all of the basis of the carbon pricing policy in Indonesia, be it an ETS, PT BAEPU letter, or credits, originate from there. So the focus is always the Paris Agreement, and then ratified by the law, Undang-Undang Nomor 16, right? So the highest level of regulations came from this, and this actually ratifications of Paris. So don't be surprised if all of the articles or the minister regulation or the president regulations that follows are actually based on Paris Agreement project. Okay, so then the government will keep telling you, oh, basically the trading that we're talking about is Article 6.2 or 6.4 or Article 6, he said. Pak Alwi Dohong mentioned when it's about the trading, yeah. RBP is different issue. Article 5 is different scheme. Okay, so if you look at this presidential regulations, where actually it regulates all the pricing about tax, about ETS, about offsetting, all of the regulation was to follow how then it can help achieving Indonesia NDC. And it's been updated from 2021 to 2022. Indonesia is pretty proud with its own target. We set up a very high target to meet that. Thus, we are committed and obliged to meet it. And then the government is thinking via ministerial regulation number 16, for example, that regulates the ETS in coal-fired power plant sector, meaning the player is just between 99 coal-fired power plant assets only that can later trade the allowance, for example. The main objective is so then you can set the cap, you have a lower emission, then the energy sector emissions are reduced to help achieving Indonesia NDC. So that's the logic of this regulation. The same with Ministerial of Regulation 21, probably you've heard this, where basically Minister of Environment then follows the details of how the Indonesian government translates what carbon tax or certification or offsetting or carbon crediting or ETS should be. Yeah, it's just basically the detailed implementations of Article 6, and all of this regulation follow to the maintaining to help to achieve the NDC Indonesia target. Second, that we can channel the carbon finance to specific targeted mitigation actions that is defined in Indonesia. The assumption is in Indonesia. So then if you're talking about then can we do an international VCM transaction right now, this is what that is being held, because Indonesia decided that all of the carbon project must be registered in Indonesia first, so then it can be counted toward Indonesian NDC. If it's going out, then it has to be authorized by the government of Indonesia, then obviously this has to be counted, right? Before we sell the carbon outside, as counted, it will be counted by the other country, right? We have to make sure we can achieve our target. So basically, that's the logic and the regulation that are follows until now. The details is the OJK that Pak Denny will basically mandate from. And this we have to congratulate him later, how hard he worked to make a real carbon markets exchange happen after the OJK regulation 14 is out on trading. So that's where we are right now. You'll see so many terms, so many new areas that the government want to, flourish, so then we can channel new type of financing of what we call carbon financing, be it credits or allowance, or maybe later via taxes that can help achieving Indonesian NDC and later help several climate mitigation action inside the country. So that's where we are, I think, on the latest news on the policy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ridwan, for a brief explanation. And from the explanation, we are proud that Indonesia currently on the right path, and we just need to go faster. And then, this is Mr. Rion as one of local champion in Indonesia that may give us an inspiration. Okay, Mr. Rion, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the chance that are given for me to maybe explain a little bit about the PLN's energy transition roadmap. Currently, PLN developed an exercise energy transition scenario that is called the Accelerated Renewable Energy Development Scenario, in which the renewable energy capacity in PLN will be scaled up. So basically, previously in the previous RUPTL that is currently enacted in 2021, the renewable energy compared to the fossil power plant is 52%. It's still larger than the fossil power plant, so that we call it the greenest RUPTL over the lifetime of PLN. And in this new scenario, the accelerated renewable energy, we will increase and scale up the renewable energy, so the renewable energy and the gas power plant in the future will be 75% compared to 25% between the renewable energy and the gas power plant. So the renewable energy is comprised of the base load renewable energy, which is the geothermal and the hydropower, and also the variable renewable energy, such as the solar and solar PV and wind. That's the variable. So this scenario, which we develop for the electricity infrastructure development between the 2023 and 2040, is an important bridging scenario for us, for PLN, to achieve our commitment, which we already stated since 2021, that we already stated we will achieve net zero emission in 2060. So with this scenario, the emission will peak in 2030, around 334 million tons of CO2, and will gradually decrease between until 2040, because we currently still have a high capacity of coal-fired power plant, but we will reduce the emission by doing what? By doing the coal phase down. So gradually the capacity factor or the operational of the coal-fired power plant will be. So instead of maybe we operated in 80% capacity factor, gradually we will reduce it from 80, 75, and until 60. So the emission from the coal-fired power plant will also be reduced. And this also related to the PTBAU PU that is already mentioned by Pak Ridwan before. So that's also one of the way for PLN to reduce the emission and stay within the regulation in the future. So after previously, After 2040, in 2050, the reduction of emission will be much more significant because between 2040 and 2050, several of our coal-fired power plant will be naturally retired. So, in our scenario, we plan to retire our coal-fired power plant naturally until its economic lifetime ends. Before that, without the energy transition agenda or an energy transition commitment, we PLN and also the government of Indonesia prefer to operate and extend the lifetime of the coal-fired power plant because it's cheap and reliable. We can operate it reliably to support the system and cheap. That's the point. So, but with the energy transition agenda, we commit to only operate it until its economic lifetime ends. So between the 2040 and 50, some of the coal-fired power plant will be ended economic lifetime. And then to achieve net zero emission in 2060, in addition to the more retirement of the coal-fired power plant in the future, we also will introduce the new energy. We will use the hydrogen, the green hydrogen, as the fuel for our gas power plant, and also ammonia for the fuel for our coal-fired power plant. And also we will introduce in our roadmap, we introduce the carbon capture and storage, which the regulation is still in the process currently. But PLN already saw that carbon capture is one of the important initiatives to help PLN to achieve net zero emissions from the fossil fuel power plant. So there are several key technical initiatives that need to be implemented to achieve those scenarios. We want to scale up the renewable energy, but the load center is still in Java. Java Island is still the load center in Indonesia, but the renewable energy resources in Java is already depleted. So in order to increase and scale up the renewable energy, especially from the baseload renewable energy, from the geothermal, from the hydro, we will need to bring those energy from other islands to Java. That's why we need to build a green, what we call it, green enabling supergrid. We will build the interconnection between Sumatra and Java within the period of 2030. So before 2030, we hope that the interconnection system between Sumatra and Java is already operating. While in the future, if the renewable energy or hydro and solar from Sumatra has been also depleted, we will need to bring the renewable energy from Kalimantan, because we have a huge potential for hydro in Kalimantan Island, but the electricity demand over there is still not that high. So if we want to scale up the renewable to meet the demand, we will need to bring it to Java Island. And also to build interconnection between the Nusa Tenggara. We know that Nusa Tenggara is the center of solar energy in Indonesia. The solar irradiance intensity over there is much higher compared to the Java and other islands in Indonesia. So this green enabling transmission line is very important and crucial for PLN or for Indonesia to scale up the renewable energy. And the other thing is, renewable energy, as I mentioned previously, is also comprised of variable renewable energy like wind and solar. And as I think all the models over there said that solar will be the key for energy transition. All the models will say that, 60% of the capacity will come from solar energy. But technically speaking, to accommodate that, we need to build a smarter grid. Our current grid will not be able to accommodate high percentage of variable renewable energy because solar and wind is intermittent. We don't know when it will come, and we don't know, currently we don't know when it will go up and down. We cannot regulate it currently. That's why PLN will also need to enhance the grid to become smarter. What we call smarter is in the transmission or the operational system. We want to know and predict about the solar and wind. When will they come up and when will they come down, so that we can prepare our system to overcome that capacity. Because in the electricity system, the electricity need to be generated at the same time as it is consumed, right? Because storage is still very, very expensive currently. But in the future, we will need to build a smarter grid end-to-end. What do I mean end-to-end is from the generation, transmission, distribution, and also at the demand side. Because in the future, maybe we will have our own solar PV in our own house. Previously, the electricity come from PLN to our house, but in the future, maybe our house will send electricity to PLN grid. That's why we need to also enhance our grid in the distribution and also at the demand at the retail, so that we can also manage the inflow and outflow of the electricity from the variable renewable energy in the future. So those two initiatives, the Green Enabling Supergrid and also the end-to-end smart grid, is very crucial for PLN to scale up both the base load renewables and also to the variable renewable energy. In doing the electricity with the electricity renewable energy development, we will see that there will be a switch. The tide is changing in the future. Currently, we have a coal mix over 65%, almost 75%. In the future, with this scenario, until 2040, the tide will change. So the coal will be lower than the renewable energy mix in at the end of 2040. That's what we hope that with this scenario, the emission, like I mentioned previously, will be also reduced drastically, so that we can have the electricity that is clean and reliable. I think that's all that I can say in this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rion. And also, we maybe have to have big applause for PLN for helping us to becoming a more clean company from Indonesia. Okay, and then we will go to the next panelist, Mr. Denny. Okay, we would like to ask how about the progress that currently being provided by IDX.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to say thank you for having IDX in this wonderful event. First, maybe I would like to share that actually there are two aims for the carbon trading development in Indonesia. First, of course, as Pak Lohodong already mentioned, that Indonesia already claimed that we want to go to the net zero. So the net zero path already there, and also we already have the enhanced NDC in 2030. So the first is the presence of the carbon exchange, of course, to help Indonesia journey to achieve the NDC. But on the other side, on the left side, we have the also opportunity here, because maybe Pak Kevin also can share in the previous years, I think Indonesia all said to me that Indonesia is one of the best carbon credit producer in the world, and we might also potentially to be the largest carbon credit producer in the world. So not only maybe we can only save Indonesia in our NDC, maybe we can also save the world, because our carbon credit is enormous, and that's why we need a market exchange to realize that carbon credit. And as we see, the other players are also joining the carbon market. Most of the stock exchange right now also joining the carbon market, like Bursa Malaysia, Japan Exchange, Singapore, all of them have the carbon market. So I believe because we already also integrate the carbon market in 26 September, that will be our good step, so that all the carbon credit not only going outside Indonesia, but also can be traded in Indonesia. As for the carbon exchange itself, I think the benefit for the investor is not like the other type of asset class that you want to get money from it, but actually this is more on how we can achieve the sustainability. In the capital market, actually we also always push all the listed companies to do the carbonization and also net zero. So that's why we have a lot of effort to push all the listed companies to go there, and also we are helping their journey to go to the net zero. The regulation already there. We all have the POJK 51, also SAOJK number 16, to mandate all the listed company to count their carbon emission and also disclose what are their action to reduce the emission. And with the carbon exchange right now, I think we have the end-to-end also solution for the decarbonization until the net zero path. Yeah, so this is the carbon exchange that we have. We have launched it on 26 September. So this both of the instrument can be traded there, both allowance or PTBA-PU and also carbon credit or SPA-GRK. And also we have several competitive advantage they would like to bring to the carbon market, for example, like transparency, price discovery. We would like to bring this in the carbon exchange or to the carbon market so that the carbon exchange transaction can be more liquid and also can help the project developer to set up more project in Indonesia. This is the interesting part. Currently we have the 45 registered users, and the push factor is still very low in Indonesia. We have the cap and trade, but all the cap is very high. Nobody want to sell, and nobody want to buy. All of them want to sell. So we want to buy the carbon credit. Right now, that's one of the quite a problem in Indonesia. As you may see that 93% of the buyer is coming from the listed company, because the push factor of ESG investing is there. So all the big companies starting to make their decarbonization journey, and also they buy the carbon credit to offset their emission. And the 29% of them also including financial institution, particularly bank, because bank also I think quite advanced in terms of ESG, and the 17% is coming from BUMN. BUMN also have the mandate from the Ministry of BUMN to do the decarbonization journey. So they always becoming our part in the carbon exchange. And now the current statistic, right now currently we have around 1.7 carbon credit, 1.7 million carbon credit from the Pertamina and also PLN. And the trading amount, right now we almost have 500,000 ton CO2 or 490,000 ton of CO2 has been traded, with the last traded price is 59,200. So this is the journey of the net zero, and we are part of it, because to become zero you need to offset, right? You do the reduction first, and after that you do the offsetting to the carbon exchange. And also the requirement is very easy. You just need to email us there, and we will guide you to make your account, and also help us and help Indonesia and to achieve the NDC and help your company to get the net zero journey and get the benefit of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Denny. And now we go to Mr. Manohar. I have two questions. The first one is how auditors can help. And then the second one maybe how the collaboration between CFA and ACCA may contribute in providing the necessary talent. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, selamat petang and good evening, everyone. Welcome from my current home state or home city of Johor Bahru. It's a pleasure to be here as your guest to share. I guess, as someone once said, accountants will save the world. So here we are to drive that objective. I think if you look at this slide, and I've only got one slide really, I wanted to share just one experience or one example of how Indonesia is driving its contribution towards climate change. The fact that your forests, and we're talking about all 120 million hectares, right, of forests across all your islands, are now part of this World Bank initiative, actually shows both the commitment of the country and also the potential for carbon credits and earnings that the country can get as it strives towards its NDCs as shared, and also towards its net zero emissions. So you can see how, as has also shared about the carbon exchange, what the closing price is. And that comes really to what we are most concerned about. How do we account for carbon, right? Leaving aside all the operational aspects of it, at the end of the day, we are accountants and auditors. And of course, among you, there are a lot of investment analysts. We ultimately deal with numbers. It's a whole new ball game. Many of us have traditionally shunned the world of science, and that's probably why we ended up in the accounting profession, right? And so just like you, I myself now are having to learn scientific terms that I hoped I would avoid all my life. Terms like GHG, right? Carbon offsets, nature-based solutions, right? But yes, we have to embrace it as a profession. And so what does that mean? There is that increased demand really for accounting and auditing services that we all have as an opportunity to actually progress not just ourselves, but also Indonesia as part of it. Many of you are now probably thinking from what our earlier presenters have shared, how do you actually value, right, a carbon credit? We are so used to what goes into the balance sheet. We are so used to what goes into our profit and loss account. Now we have this new thing called carbon credit. We've got a new thing called carbon derivatives, right? We have a new thing called emissions obligations. Where does this go actually, right? Does it even appear on your accounting system at all? If it does, where do you put it? Do you put it on the debit side? Do you put it on the credit side? Right? It's really a whole new ball game, really. And so you find that with that, and also with the increased government regulation, it does bring all this additional complexity to accounting. And of course, at the end of the day, if you ask the stakeholders, whether it's the shareholders, whether it's the government regulators, whether it's just the company itself, just like how financial information needs to be audited, sustainability information also becomes increasingly important to be assured. And so this also opens up a whole new ball game. For those of you in the room here who are either internal or external auditors, you now realize that sustainability assurance becomes another facet or dimension of what the market actually demands. So then it goes into the second question, right? What does it mean in terms of upskilling, right? How do we embrace the continuous need for learning and education as part of improving our own personal goals, and also, of course, improving our job prospects and mobility? So this is where we can see that the climate finance collaboration that ACCA and CFA has done is also an integral part of what we hope to bring to our members. The certification in improving local knowledge and meeting stakeholder needs cannot be underestimated. And we also find that the guide to sustainability reporting is something that was launched recently by ACCA. And I would recommend that you actually scan the QR code and download this, because you will find that this really, as a new beginner, gives you a lot of very important and basic information on how to prepare sustainability reports. It actually even has got a worksheet that gives you very basic to-do steps that you can use in your organization. And so when we talk about accountants bringing value, right, beyond just finance, this is definitely a guide that will give you that further improvement. Of course, in terms of connectivity, we do know that ACCA in Indonesia continues to be a thriving community. You have right now got almost close to 1,000 members, affiliates, and students. And you find that as this community grows, there are going to be additional initiatives to support your personal learning in development, your personal technical development towards meeting the government's initiatives towards net zero, meeting your NDC, and also other aspects of your company's performance. So hopefully together, right, this is how I guess Indonesia and you all here in the room can lead the way, not just in your country, but probably even from an ASEAN and a global perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manohar. We will enter the Q&A session.
Thank you. It's a very interesting session. My name is Anto from HSBC. You know, this climate change give us a lot of headache actually because a lot of work, because I'm from banking sector, a lot of work that we need to be done, climate risk stress test, etc., etc. And maybe the question is, in the session it was mentioned that there is a plan for the NDC for carbon emission reduction by 31.89% by 2030. My first question is whether this is realistic. And second, what's next? What is after 2030? What is our target in Indonesia to reduce the carbon emission? I think that's all. Thank you.
I'm not government, so it's supposed to be Pak Lue Dohong and Pak Pahala the one who answer. But I think the stake is pretty high. If you look at the NDC document, it's a public document, Enhanced NDC 2022. There is pretty clear breakdown on how and what is the target and how the government able to achieve it on its own. We call them CM1, countermeasure 1, meaning the Indonesia can do it on its own, and CM2, with the help of international world, Indonesia could achieve more. So if you look at, you know, because I'm the energy background, so I often look at the energy target. It's pretty clear. It's in line with what PLN actually mentioned. So when PLN set the target of the power sector, it's pretty much reflected in the Indonesia NDC power sector, which actually contribute pretty high in the emission inventory. So if you mention what's next, so what's next is so many things. If you're the bankers able to think about financing a new renewable energy project, grid transmission projects, smart grid projects, CCS projects, hydrogen projects. So those are what listed in the future and what Indonesia think should be able to do on its own and with international support under whatever financial products you can provide, right? So I think that's pretty much where we are and what's next. And many of the potential new kind of projects, the green climate projects, are in the energy, I would see, as the forestry sector most likely are mainly are from controlling forest fires with peatland restorations. And I think the biggest next step on the NBS is actually mangrove restoration and peatland restorations. If you're like having more interest in those NBS, the nature-based solution area, I think that will be kind of the next for, you know, what Indonesia is planning to do to meet its NDC per climate target, say. Yeah, I think that's neutral enough, right? It's mentioned all in the NDC.
Are you optimistic that the target will be met?
Wow, is this a political statement? I cannot answer that.
Okay, but I think from the PLN perspective, it can be done. How about that, Mr. Rion?
Yeah, as Mas Ridwan mentioned that all the initiative that is in energy sector, especially what PLN do, our plan in the RUBTL in 2030 it's reflected in the NDC. What we plan in our accelerated renewable energy development is also reflected on the NDC. The renewable energy capacity addition, the biomass co-firing ratio, and also clean coal technology, and also the gasification. We already implemented, we already do it, and we believe in 2030 the target to achieve, for example, in the NDC, it's a 21 gigawatt of renewable energy. It's achievable in 2030. But as Mas Ridwan mentioned, all that initiatives requires funding, right? And financial support. And that's also one of the enablers that is required for the energy transition in Indonesia. We need to develop a more creative way to fund or to finance the climate or energy transition initiatives, which maybe currently is not available currently. So maybe if we have some innovative way to fund, to finance the initiative, maybe it will be more optimistic to be achieved.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And then the last question, please go
Saya
ahead.
Intan dari PKN STAN. Mungkin tadi dijelaskan ya kalau untuk carbon trading ini yang terkait itu sepertinya industri dan kemudian juga ada negara gitu ya. Nah ini kan kalau Indonesia kan konteksnya kita banyak small medium enterprise gitu ya. Nah apakah gitu ya ada model mungkin pembiayaan untuk support gitu ya SME sehingga mereka juga ikut bisa berkontribusi gitu ya dalam isu terkait climate change ini gitu. Mungkin itu saja, terima kasih.
Oke. Terima kasih Bu, thank you Bu. Actually yes Bu, just last today BPDLH just launched, and the NIDX also do the socialization about the grant. So we have a grant for all the project developers, in which a small scale project developers. So to make a carbon project or carbon credit project, you need to like making a PDD, or kalau Indonesia dibilangnya daftar rencana aksi mitigasi DRAM. Jadi itu harus dibuat dulu, proyeknya mau ngapain gitu kan. Nah itu sekarang ini lagi ada program subsidi, diberikan subsidi sebesar $5.000, khusus buat proyek yang kecil. Nah buat proyek yang udah jalan, itu ada lagi subsidi nanti untuk dibeli karbon kreditnya oleh BPDLH. Pada saat sudah tergenerate karbon kredit, diberi dengan harga $5 ya kalau saya nggak salah, $5 untuk paling banyak sekitar 20.000 ton untuk carbon project yang setiap tahunnya menghasilkan maksimum 100.000 ton. Nah jadi ini sebenarnya upaya yang dilakukan pemerintah dalam ini BPDLH untuk tadi mendorong pemain-pemain kecil juga masuk. Sekarang kan tadi kita lihat PLN sama Pertamina, masa kita subsidi yang gede-gede gini kan enggak kan, mereka udah punya uang lah. Nah tadi kecil-kecil kita juga lagi dorong. Jadi kalau ibu mau ikut, ada tertarik carbon project, coba aja kontak BPDLH atau enggak kita ada rekaman materi yang tadi kemarin siang kita sosialisasin ke semua project developer, nanti ibu bisa lihat lagi kira-kira apa sih opportunity-nya gitu ya.
Okay, and now I will have to conclude this discussion, and this is what we learned tonight. The first one is we know that climate is our business because it relates to our home in Earth. So the government initiatives is always involve the strong involvement from the private sectors. We already unite before to make our Indonesia, and then we'll still unite to make the difficult target to be achieved. And then if we look to our country strategic position, that with this a lot of initiative, a lot of effort, all the potential for renewable energy will be uncovered. That will benefit us, and we will becoming one of major player and major contributors for reducing the carbon emission in the world. And also, carbon exchange is not just an exception. It will becoming a norm. So what Mr. Manohar says earlier, that it uncover also new opportunity, new business, and as always, we have to upskill our skill to help this gigantic work to be done properly. And then I think that's all for today. I would like to give a big round of applause to all our discussion. Thank you very much.
Such an insightful conversations we have this evening. Thank you, moderator, and all the speakers for the discussions. Acknowledging the contributions of our panelists, let's have a
We'll have a token of
appreciation for all the panelists and moderator.
Okay.
So we would like to invite Mr. Andrew Lim to have a token of appreciation for the moderator. Thank you, Bapak Adrian Teja, for moderating our tonight's event. Please give big round of applause for Dr. Adrian Teja. And next, we invite Ibu Julia Simatupang, the country manager, to have a token of appreciation for our panelists. Bapak Ridwan, token of appreciation for Pak Denny, Ignatius Denny, CFA. This big round of applause for Pak Denny. And also we invite Pak Triyono Sudirjo, the Vice President of CFA Society Indonesia, to have a token of appreciation for our panelists. Thank you very much, Bapak Aryan Maruf. Give big round of applause. And our panelists from Malaysia, Bapak Manohar Johnson. Thank you very much, Bapak Manohar. And we invite to have photo sessions. And also we inviting Bapak Hishamuddin Jalil, the Employer Relationship Lead from ACCA Maritime Southeast Asia, and also Bapak Ang Wen Hao, Education Relationship Lead of ACCA Maritime Southeast Asia. And that's conclude the panel discussions for tonight. We might invite you to enjoy our dinner tonight, and thank you.
They say that the grand prize is actually 2 tickets to a country that start with U. I have no idea where. I was asking them. They were sharing just U. They are keeping it a secret. Hopefully the winner will be you guys. All right. So there will be how many draws? There will be 3 draws. 3 draws. First draw. Let's have a quick one. Can I have the winner? Oh, sounds familiar. Mr. Ang Wen Hao as the grand prize. Oh, sorry, that's myself. I'm not eligible, nevertheless, but let's go on a real one. The first draw between 2 gentlemen and the lady. Definitely, we will require the lady to have the first pick. Ladies first. Oh, you want drum? The card looks familiar. First sign, green in color. If your name card is green in color, you stand the best chance. It's from BNI Ventures. I have no idea, is that a park or a bull? So please forgive me. I'll just pronounce the name. Danang Pangestu Gusti Bagaskara. Is that a park or a bull? Park. Second round of draw. And the winner, the lucky winner for tonight, goes to a blue name card. dark blue name card with a square symbol as a company logo. He or she is the head of Life Insurance Consulting Indonesia, Junaidi Amin. Is that a Pak or a boo? Pak Junaidi. Last but not least, let's have the gentleman in front, our very lovely, good-looking MC for tonight, to do the last honor of draw for us. Pak Afif, dipersilakan dengan segala hormatnya. My God. This particular name card carries a photo. So if your name card has a photo, most likely you stand a chance to win. It's a photo of a lovely girl, lady, it's a female. And so happened, I got the privilege to sit beside her the whole night. May I invite Rosemary? Yep. Let's take a photo with the lucky ones first tonight. If you want to feel lucky tomorrow, or maybe later as well, please rub their shoulders. Can we give a round of applause to all the lucky winners once again?